Well, hi, everyone. This is Mary Ann White. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Casey Group, and we're the company behind Mapview. Also with me is Calvin Casey, who's our Customer Success Manager, and he'll be helping me out during our question and answer portion of our webinar today. But we wanted to thank everyone for joining us on this Friday afternoon. This is the second time we're holding a session such as this for our current users. And the first one seemed to be well attended, and this one certainly has been as well. So we'll probably be making this a regular occurrence. So watch your email, and we'll certainly keep the schedule out so any of our current users can join us for these sessions. So we hope it adds value. And with that, I'll get started. Just real quick, I wanted to share with you what we plan to cover today. First, I was going to go through just a high-level review of Mapview's features, and the thought is just to make sure everyone's on the same page as far as the app's full functionality, as some of what I go through might lead to some questions that you have while we're on our call today. Once we do that, we're going to jump right into our question and answer session. So feel free to ask any Mapview questions that you have. You can let us know any specific questions you have or topics you'd like us to cover. And even before we get to that session or that part of our call today, feel free to start entering questions if you already have some in your mind in the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. So you can just type them in, and then when we get started with questions and answers, we'll address as many as possible. And then finally, we'll do a wrap-up. We'll just let you know how to find any further support if you have any other questions that come up while you're using the app, as well as if we do have extra time left over in our hour, we'll certainly use it to continue doing a demo and showing you some other popular features in Mapview. So with that, I'll just go ahead and just give you a quick overview. You're probably pretty familiar with the app, but just in case there's something you're not aware of, first and foremost, obviously Mapview helps you visualize your data geographically. So the app will sync and can pull in contact data from your mobile device, your iPad or your iPhone, or also through the spreadsheet import process. And the app will map anything that has an associated address or lat and longitude coordinate. So some of you might know our app used to be called Sales Navigator, and we used to always say, don't think of it only as a sales app. Really, there's so many different use cases of what can be mapped through this app. We have a lot of service people using it as well as many unique use cases to boot. Also, viewing geographically, you can group your data to help you visualize where you want to visit by using our custom pin function. So we'll get into that a little bit more as we jump into the demo part of our call. As far as those custom pins go, that's what really helps drive you to be able to filter your data for advanced targeting. So either you can view your data with a radius that's available through our map view and circle view features, so that you can see all of your contacts by distance and by direction from a center point. But then you can also use those group filters, which can be groups that you set up on your own or data points in your spreadsheet to really decide on the criteria of what you want to view on the map to help you prioritize your day. As you plan your day, you can use the calendar feature to look at just one day, or to even expand it to a range all the way up to a calendar quarter, so that you can see all of your calendar appointments and drop-in type visits. As far as your visits go, the app will obviously help you plan your trips, and our schedule optimizer will help you fit as much into your day as possible. So it will utilize both fixed calendar appointments and flexible meeting tasks, which would be considered, cold calls or drop-in visits, so that you can optimize your time, or your route, I should say, your whole schedule based on time, distance, or a blend of both. And then once you do, you can use the navigation features to receive turn-by-turn directions. And then finally, as more of a productivity feature of the app, you can keep actually a to-do list within the app of follow-up, be it appointments or calls or emails, and note them as completed. You can actually call or email directly from the app. If you're calling, we have a VoIP service that's included in your subscription. So you could make VoIP calls right from the app and have them automatically logged within the app. You can take notes right into the app and even use speech to text. And all of those activities, one of our newest features is that you can export them all to a CSV file for reporting. So you can export all of your activities. You can also export all of your contact data and notes. So that's been a very popular add-on feature that we recently rolled out to help everyone with any weekly or month-end reporting that they need to complete. So that was just a real quick high-level overview of the app. And with that, I'm just going to move on to, we'll jump right into sort of our open-ended session where we'll take and do our best to answer any questions that you may have. As I mentioned, any questions can be entered into the question box in the GoToWebinar control panel. We are going to take them all, just especially to begin, if you could type them in, just because there are so many attendees today. We just think it would be an easier way to manage the session. If you're not that familiar with your GoToWebinar control panel, I'm displaying a picture of it right now. And you can see there's a drop-down section where it says questions. And right there, you can type in your question and hit send. And we'll receive all the list of your questions and start addressing as many as possible. If we don't get through them all, certainly be assured that we will follow up to the email address you provided when you registered and make sure that your question is answered. So with that, please feel free to ask any questions. And at this point, I'll hand it over to Calvin, who's probably been monitoring those, and queue up for where we're getting the most questions around, and we'll start doing our best to answer them. So Calvin, I'll let you kick it off with where we should start.
Sure, and thank you guys for having us. I'm really excited to be here and help you guys with Mapview. So one of the things I'm starting to see, and Marianne, if you'd show where this would be in the app, some people would like to sync their contacts between two devices, like an iPhone and an iPad, and that is possible. What you would need to do is you would need to have an external source where your contacts are syncing, and we've defined that as something like a Gmail contacts. Our personal favorite in the office is iCloud. And from there, you can manage your contacts externally. You would use that system to manage your contacts, and that you can use to sync into Mapview. And to do that, you would go to Settings. And then you would go down to Choose Groups to Sync. And here is a list of all the external sources that you can add to or that you have on your device. These have to be added to through the settings on your device, which we can go through, but in the application, this is what you're looking for. So I think we'll take a step back and show you very quickly how to add an external source as well. So to do that, you would have to exit Mapview and then go to the settings on your device. And here you're looking for a section called Accounts and Passwords. And from here, this is where you actually add the external account to have it synced into Mapview. So to add a new one, you would click Add Account. And from there, Apple would prompt you where your contacts or where that external source is coming from. That was a great question and something we get a lot. So thank you guys and keep them coming. And if you have any follow-ups, please feel free to keep going until we get them. We get what you need out of it.
And Calvin, just as you queue up the next question, I'll just add sort of what's coming with Mapview. Just for those that did ask that question, our development team is working on a cloud solution that we'll have in the coming months where you can actually manage your contacts through our web interface and automatically sync your contacts through multiple devices, 2 devices, be it both iOS devices, or we're really excited that we'll have Android availability shortly as well. So you could use this cloud option to sync your contacts between an Android device and an iOS device as well. So those are all things that are coming down the road for Mapview. Our development team's busy at work at keep continually updating the app and adding more functionality to it.
Right. Exactly. Another great question for our app is how do you create a trip, and how would I create multiple trips? Both are possible. You would want to plan in advance of the day you're going to go on a trip. So, for example, we have here today's June 1st, but Marianne would plan for June 4th. She already has some accounts loaded in, so you would need some data in order to create a trip. And if you really want to, you can actually extend the view of the calendar to view more than one appointment. So just and as you can see here, we have 1 day, 1 week, all the way to a calendar quarter. You can plan that far out in advance. So right now, Marianne on her screen actually has a calendar appointment with Vibra Hospital of Richmond, and that's noted by the blue icon with the 10 a.m. So Mapview will sync in every calendar appointment you have, as long as the calendar is syncing with the application. And you can also create drop-in visits by tapping on clients and adding that to your trip. So to do that, you would tap on a pin, and then here you'll actually notice an orange person icon to the far right. So and tapping on that will actually bring up the account information. And here you can actually do 2 types of tasks. The calendar appointment is a fixed appointment or an agreement between both parties. So that would mean I was having a meeting with Marianne at 10 a.m. on June 4th or 11 a.m. A drop-in visit or a meeting task is to the right. It's that stop sign icon. And that means that I want to see this person today, but I'm not really sure when. So once you tap on that, you actually get the details of the event. So the app will pre-fill as much as it can. And our default setting for our meeting visits are 30 minutes. That can be changed based on your needs. But if that works for you guys, then all you would need to do is tap done. And if you went back to the screen, you can see there's now a stop sign with your number 2, and the route has been drawn. So if you added a few more stops, what you can end up doing, and Marianne will do shortly, what you can do is you can actually optimize your day. And this is really the neat thing about Mapview is, we take those fixed appointments, those calendar appointments that I described earlier, and we also take your visit or meeting tasks, and the optimizer will rearrange your schedule to make sure you see your appointments within a given time frame, but it'll keep those calendar appointments where they are because we have an agreement with the other party or the other person that we are going to be there at that time.
Yeah, and Calvin, while I'm here, why don't I just go ahead, I'll do an optimization real quick to show everyone. Does that sound good? Okay. So what I'll do is I already just set up one appointment, but I'm just going to go to my filters first, and those are the groups that we talked about. Just quickly in that high-level overview, I'm just going to look at all of my high revenue accounts. So I've made a group of high revenue accounts that are denoted by that green pin. So now I'm going to go back and look at my trips. So we'll see what I've set up so far by tapping trips. I'm going to start from my home. I have that 10 a.m. appointment, and then we just set up that drop-in visit. So as I set up drop-in visits, the app will just start by adding them to my trip in the order that I set them up. So let me just add a little bit more to my day. Let me go ahead and make an appointment as well. Let me add another appointment since we didn't really show you what that screen looked like. So I'm just tapping on one of my other contacts that I want to visit today and opening up the contact record. As Calvin mentioned, to make an appointment, I would tap the calendar icon. My appointment's going to last an hour, but if it would be shorter or longer, I could adjust it here. And then I just tap next. I just need to set the time of the appointment. So I'm going to assume I spoke to this client and they're free at 2:30. And then I'm just going to hit add to add it to my schedule. So now you'll see in a moment, my route is going to update to include that appointment as well as my trip list here. So now here is my new route. If I'm ever in jeopardy of being late on the day of my appointment, my route will actually turn red to alert me to that. So now just looking at the trip list, the little information button in between each stop, if I tap on that, that will expand it. So the little information button, wherever you see throughout the app, really will expand to give you more details. In this case, it's giving me my turn-by-turn directions. And then if I want to jump into navigation, I would just tap that bent arrow. Once again, it's an icon you'll see throughout the app. That will take you to your navigation program of choice, which could be Apple Maps, Google Maps, or Waze. It's a setting within the app. And that'll give me my turn-by-turn directions with audio. To get back to Mapview, I just tap the little back arrow in my top left-hand corner, and I'm back where I left off with my directions. And then I'm just going to add a few more drop-in visits quickly and optimize so that you can see how that works. And then we'll move on to the next set of questions. But I have some other clients, obviously, in the nearby area, so I want to see if I can visit those as well. So I'm just tapping on the contact, opening it up. Once again, this is a drop-in visit, so I'm just going to tap the stop sign icon. Everything's pre-filled, so I'm just tapping done. And just let me add one more. One down here in the south. And just doing a drop-in visit. Now to use the optimizer, if you're going to tap optimizer, you do want to include drop-in visits. Otherwise, there's really nothing to optimize. It'll just be your appointments for the day, which is fine too, but just wanted to let you know it is really built to utilize when you're doing the drop-in visits. You can see that last one is just in pink because it's outside of my time. It ended up being outside of my time frame because I'm saying that I want to end at 5 o'clock back at my home. But once I hit optimize, the app is actually going to provide me with the best schedule for my day. So I just can pick if I would like to optimize on time, distance, or a blend of both. I'll pick time. The app is now communicating with our server. It's looking at all my set appointments and all those drop-in visits, and you can see it just rearranged everything for me to tell me the best order for the day. So if I scroll to the top, I can start from my home, and I can actually get one of those drop-in visits in before my 10 a.m. appointment. So that's what it's showing me. I can go to my first stop and then go back to my 10 a.m. appointment and then carry on. It's created almost a loop for me. I can get the third drop-in visit, go down south to the 4th, and then circle around to my 2:30 appointment. Now I can see that I still have gaps in my schedule, so I could go ahead and turn on more accounts on my map and try and see if I could work some more appointments in. Also, as I finish these drop-in visits, I can tap the little flag to the right, the status flag, and note them as complete. Then they would show up as a completed activity in all of my activity reports. So that was a quick overview of the optimizer. I'll throw it back to Calvin in case you've seen any other questions come up about routing, or if you want to move it on to a different feature.
Well, since we're on the topic, one question that came up is, can our users create a trip with different sets of data or different sets of customers without having to tap each pane or add a task? And I wanted to let you guys know that coming really soon in the future, we actually have a lasso feature where our customers will be able to draw a shape on the map and create stops just by what is within that shape. So it'll be a quicker and easier way to add stops and generate routes through that enhancement.
So that's actually the next enhancement that's coming. So that'll be our very next release. So
yeah,
won't have to wait too long for that. Sorry, go ahead, Calvin.
No, that's fine. And the other question, as far as routing goes, is can I save a trip? As far as the app is now, the answer is no, but we are, again, working on that. That is something that we are talking about with the lasso feature, or, even further down the line if we feel it's necessary. What you can do, and what we recommend for some people, if it works for you, is you can actually create calendar appointments with certain customers if you know you're going to be at a certain point on a day, and you can actually have the event repeat. So as Marianne's showing, the repeat is set to never, but if you change that, you can actually have it repeat every day, every week, so on and so forth. And if you change that setting, the appointment would save and the route would continue to appear.
Yeah, so that one I just did for every 2 weeks. So I guess that would bring me to the 18th. So there's that appointment now ready for me on the 18th.
Right. So, okay. Someone just asked, can we show how to load accounts? There are a few different ways. So I'm going to go over a couple different ways to add contacts to Mapview. One was the syncing with the external sources, which just as a refresher, we went to settings, choose groups to sync after adding the external source, and you can import contacts that way. The next would be going through the list by name. So if you went back to the menu and went to list by name, and you tap the plus icon in the top right, that would allow you to enter a single contact. So it depends on what you're looking to do. And then there would be a third option, and something we use all the time. You can actually import a spreadsheet of contacts through a CSV file and have that upload, and then all the contacts would appear then there. So I would actually like to turn it over to Marianne, because I know she has a spreadsheet ready for you guys. and she can take you through the import process.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just real quick, one other, it's similar to the list by name and the plus sign that Calvin just mentioned. If you're out and about, just another cool sort of quick trick to do if you want to add a contact. Maybe for some reason I want Walgreens to be listed in my contact list. I can just press and hold anywhere on the map, and the app will retrieve that address. And I can tap that little contact icon that we've seen, the little orange profile picture. And once again, that's the same form that Calvin just had us show through list of names. But the nice thing is the address is already pre-filled. So we just have to enter the name. So just a little handy trick. I know a lot of users sort of add some restaurants that way, just so they know some spots that they like to take clients to for lunch, etc. But let me get to the spreadsheet. So to open the spreadsheet Mapview, you just have to open the spreadsheet on your device. And personally, I think the easiest way is to email it to myself, and then I just open up the email on my device. So I'm just going to switch to my email program. Bear with me. I had already sent myself a file with new accounts. Most importantly, the file just needs to be saved in Excel and then save it as a CSV file. So that's an option in Excel under Save As. I'm just going to tap on the file, and an option comes up of how I would like to open the file. I'm going to choose Mapview. So just scroll through the options until you see our Mapview icon and choose Mapview. The app will just take a moment now to analyze that spreadsheet and walk me through the import process. There we go. So first, it's just asking me what I would like to call this spreadsheet, as it will show up as its own group with its own pin. So I'm just going to have it be called Richmond Account. Just want to note as I go through this process, see there's some question marks on the screen. They're just there to help guide you through the process if you have any questions. So if you tap on any of the question marks, it'll explain what's going on during that step and what you need to do. So those are just some helpful notes to walk you through the process if it's your first time importing a spreadsheet. I'm good with the name, so all I have to do is tap next in the top right-hand corner. Go ahead.
Sorry, I wanted to jump in because someone had asked a question. How do I add a current spreadsheet to a existing filter or group? And the answer is in this process right here. What you see is a list of Marianne's custom groups. So she has competitor accounts, high revenue, and Richmond, and she can actually select to import that spreadsheet directly into these accounts, or because she has her iCloud syncing with her device, she can actually push these contacts to iCloud as well.
Great. Well, good time to get that question while we're on that screen. Perfect. Okay. So in this case, I'll just keep it in its own group, but as Calvin mentioned, I could also have it flow into one of my already created groups. The next field, and just remember you're looking at my iPad, this is step 2, where you just need to link the columns from your spreadsheet to a contact record. So on the left side panel is what the fields of a normal contact record, and there's more fields probably than you would be using. It's just every sort of possible field. And then on the right panel are the column headers from my spreadsheet. I just want to point out, if you're using an iPhone for this process, it just looks a little different on this phase. You would just see one panel at a time and would have to just flip back and forth between panels. One thing I should have sort of focused on more when I first opened my spreadsheet was that in that CSV file, I just want to point out, as you prepare your spreadsheet, you want all of your data to be broken out by columns. So for example, company, first name, last name, each should be in its own column. Especially important is the address. So you can see on the right, my spreadsheet had street as one column, and then it was broken out by city, broken out by zip code, etc. So all of those data points should be in separate columns. Also, and let me actually go back. to my spreadsheet for a moment. I just want to show you one other thing, sorry. Let me open up that spreadsheet. There we go. Here you can see how everything's in its separate columns. At the very end, I've made two custom columns called date last visited and rating. So our spreadsheet import process does allow you to create custom fields of data. And with those column headers, you'll see as I go through this process, I can make automatic groups out of this data as I get further along in the process. So perhaps for one use case, I want to see all of my accounts based on if they're hot, warm, or cold. I will be able to flow that into the app with separate pins. So just give that a little thought as you prepare your spreadsheet and think about what data you would love to see in the app. And if you add it all to your spreadsheet, it's going to automatically appear. Okay. So with that, I'm just going to continue on. There we go. We'll go back to what we already walked through, just sharing the spreadsheet with Mapview. There we go. And I'll just zoom through those first two steps that we already covered. I just wanted to, it's great if you can plan ahead and really think how you want to use your data, and you can prepare your spreadsheet in such a way. So here we are back at that linking page. I have on the right side some, I guess everything that you see that's in color with the letters has already been linked. So the app looks at the column headers, and if it can automatically match it to a contact field, it will. For some, it needs a little help, so that's what we just need to fill in what has not been matched. So title is one. So I just need to scroll on the left side. I should have called it, I guess, job title. So on the left, I can tap on job title, and then I'm just going to link it to the right. I'm going to tap on title, and you can see how now they are now linked. Next that I need to link from my spreadsheet is phone. I'm just going to scroll down until I find the phone section. Tap on phone on the left, and then on the right to link them. Website is next. I'm just going to find the website section. Once again, I'm just connecting them. And then finally, my custom fields. Date last visited needs to be created. So let me just go to the custom field section. Rating already was filled in, so let me add a custom field for date last visited. So I simply just have to tap on the field, the text field, and I don't even have to type. I can just close out my keyboard and just go and tap date last visited, and the app will actually enter the text for me. So now you can see when I'm looking at the right side panel, which is my spreadsheet column, everything has been matched to a field. With that, I'm going to go ahead and tap next. And just one point, this is really a one-time process, because if your spreadsheets are all consistent and built the same way, the app will remember that. So the next time I would load a similar spreadsheet, it would automatically do all this matching for me, as long as it was structured in the same way with the same exact columns. The final step is just to indicate to the app if I want to create any groups out of any of this data. And I do. I want to set a group by rating. So I'm going to tap on rating. And then I'm going to select, I want to see all of my ratings as separate pins. So I'm just going to select them here and tap done. Oh, and bear with me, it looks like my screen has slowed down. There we go. It gets caught up. So I've indicated that I want rating turned into a group. So I'm going to tap, I'm finished. I'm just going to tap import in the top right-hand corner. And continue. And it's all done. So once I hit OK, we'll jump right back into the app, and that spreadsheet of data, well, you can see there's some more pins on the map already. Now if I go to list by name, all those additional accounts are listed here. And I'll go back and show you, if I go to filters, that's where I'll see all that data. So Richmond accounts, that was my spreadsheet. So the orange pin denotes that new spreadsheet I've imported. And if I prefer to look at them based on their rating, I just tap off on Richmond accounts and tap on the 3 rating options, hot, warm, and cold. And now I can look at my accounts based on that field. And just real quick, just a little trick. The app is just randomly assigning pins to these groups, so you can customize that to make the pins look however you wish. And to do so, once again, a little information button, and wherever you see that throughout the app, it expands or gives you more options. So I'll hit the information button. Here's the group information. If I tap assign pin, I'll get to the option of all the different styles of pins. I can pick a style and then choose a color. Or I can even create custom pins, which is found in the settings. So I've already created a couple custom pins. So for hot, I have a hot little fire that I like, so that right away I know on the map what that denotes. So you can make all different kinds of pins to sort of help you quickly recognize what the group is. So I've already created some hot, warm, and cold pins. I'll show you where that's found in just a moment. So there we go. I can now look at my accounts based on if they're hot, warm, or cold. And before I move on, I'll just show you where you can make those custom pins. If you just go to the main menu and tap settings, it's one of the options.
Right.
They're at the very bottom, custom pins. Oh, go ahead, Calvin.
Yeah, no, there have been some great questions about the spreadsheet import process, and I think this is a good time to fold it into some grouping questions as well. One of the questions was, you know, we upload a file weekly or monthly. What happens if we continue to do that? The answer is you will always have a pin, and in this case, what Marianne showed was an orange pin. That will always be the name of your spreadsheet, so that will continue. So we don't necessarily overwrite or delete information. If you really just want to add it to a running list, I would recommend adding it to a group you have existing in the step 1 of the spreadsheet import process. And since we're on groups, you know, some people have a lead list, and when they're done with their leads, they need to delete it out to either get ready for a new import, or maybe it's just not good information anymore. And you would actually do that under the filters tab as well. So if you ever want to delete information, you would tap the I icon next to the account you want to delete. And here you have 2 options. You have delete group and delete group and members. This is actually really, really important, because delete group will only take away the pin but won't remove the customers themselves. So what would happen is, if Marianne deleted that, the Richmond accounts would go away, but they would be moved to the unassigned pin at the top.
I'm sorry, Calvin, I just deleted my hot group instead, but
okay.
But that was to say, you know.
Sure. The other option, now that we go back, is if you want to completely wipe the information from the app, you don't need that customer information anymore, you would select delete group and members. That would remove the pin and any contacts associated with that group. And just a word of caution, this action isn't reversible. So we do give you guys a pop-up. Are you sure you want to go through with this? And if you are, then you hit delete, and the information would be gone from the application.
And also, I'll just jump in. If you just want to change maybe one by one customers, what groups they belong to, I'll just open up a pin and open up the contact record. If I scroll down, I'll see all of the groups that this contact belongs to. And then I can tap the word groups just to see all the groups I've created. So here are all of my groups. So here I can actually manage what groups this contact belongs to. So perhaps I met with them and unfortunately they're really a cold lead and not warm. I can turn on cold and turn off warm. and now they'll be denoted as a cold lead. So you can also manage groups one by one right from the contact record. And I guess as I did that, I just wanted to point out one other thing that usually comes up as a question, and that's if a contact does belong to multiple groups, which pin will it display? If I have all of my pins turned on, for example, Henrico's Doctor's Hospital is showing the orange pin because that's what's listed first in my group listing. So the app takes the priority of how your groups are listed. So if a contact belongs to multiple groups, it will show, denote it to start with whatever pin is listed at the top of this list. If you have something that's most important, maybe my high revenue accounts, I want to override any other group, I'm just pressing on high revenue and I can actually drop and drag it, bring that to the top to make that the priority group. So you can just drop and drag these groups to prioritize them. As you can see, I just switched them and now my Doctor's Hospital is showing as the cold pin because I've put that over, I've placed it to be priority over the Richmond account pin. So just a little sidebar as we're on it, because I know we often have questions from users about that. So Calvin, I'll pass it back to you if there's another set of questions you'd like us to address.
Sure. This more folds into some calendar questions. So one of the questions we've asked or have been asked is if I have appointments syncing to my calendar, where would they appear on the map? There are a few things I would check, before answering. The answer is one of the things to check is what day you're currently seeing in Mapview, because if it's not the day or within the range, it may not show up. You would also need to check if you have your calendar syncing. If you're using an external calendar, which it sounds like this person is, that it is syncing to your iCal. And to do that, you would go to settings and make sure that calendar is turned on through Mapview. Finally, what Marianne is actually showing is what calendars are being displayed. So let's say I did sync in my calendars, everything's synced into Mapview. If it isn't checked here, it won't be displayed. So I would make sure that your calendars are actually turned on in the application as well. Another person asked, we have a company and we have some reps. Is there a way to see their appointments? We are working on that. That'll be part of a feature set that will have a admin capability that will allow management to push routes to their people, their service reps or sales reps. The one thing I can recommend is if you need to see it, you can share a calendar. And just as we described earlier, if you shared a calendar and you're both syncing to the same account, the appointments will show across Mapview. This is a great question as well. How do I delete the unassigned contact list? That is something I work with on an individual basis. It's a little tricky because you can't delete the unassigned group right out of the app. Because a lot of things like personal contacts or family members can actually end up in the unassigned group if you're syncing from an external source. So we didn't make that group to have a delete function just as a catch-all in case you have important information going into the app. But I will definitely reach out to this person today, and we will go over how to delete the unassigned contact group. Let's see. There's another question about multiple categories in an import. If we can, I'm assuming that would mean you want to generate groups. And I want to expand on the spreadsheet import process a little bit as well. You can put anything in a column as long as it has a header. So, for example, we had somebody ask about putting birthdays and anniversary dates in a spreadsheet. To answer their question fully, that wouldn't sync with their calendar outright, but you can put the information into the spreadsheet, and that would then show up on that contact record. So if you were visiting John Smith, you could pull up his information before the meeting, and in the notes section, it would show you his birthday or an anniversary date, so that you can it can help you build a rapport that way. A fantastic question. And something Marianne is displaying right now is I have this trip. Now, what do I do when I'm done with it? We've had people who only work on drop-in visits, and the way Mapview works is drop-in visits don't have a specific time. So if you don't mark it as complete, which Marianne will show momentarily, the app will actually push that to the next day because it thinks you haven't done it, but you still want to. So calendar appointments work a little differently. They will disappear or be marked as complete, I should say, when the appointment time has lapsed. So what you're seeing now is Marianne is in her trip list. And as you can see for Ben White, stop number 1, there's a flag here, a blue flag. So if you tap on that, you actually have different statuses that it can be set to. And to remove a drop-in visit, you would want to set that to complete. All of these activities, whether you're syncing or not, will show up in planned activities. So there are two separate places that you can view that data. So
because today is June 1st, yes, sorry, I was just going to say there's Ben White listed because I completed it on June 1st.
Correct. And from here, just because there was another question about it, you can actually now create reports for activity tracking through this window. And to do that, you would tap the share icon, that's the square with the arrow pointing up, and that would generate a Excel file of your planned activities. So Marianne can take you through that. There are a couple windows attached to it, and you can choose where you want to send it. So you could email it or find the Dropbox and send it off to a boss or collect data from employees that way.
Okay, so I just tapped the share icon from the planned activities list, and you can export all of your activities or place filters on the export to drill down to exactly what data you want to have in your report. So for example, filter by type, I tap on it. Our activities have different types that they're listed under, such as the visit/meeting would be those drop-in visits, calls, emails, events, or others. So I can pick just by tapping on or off which activities I want to include in my report. I'll include all. Simply remember on the right side, you just have to tap apply once you set the filter. Status would be, I just showed you how I set an activity to complete. So maybe I just want to print out my complete activities. I would just note so here. You can see I only have one of those since I just only selected one for this time period. Also important is filter by date. So I can choose the start date. So I'm just tapping on start date. I would set the start date. So let me move back a little. I'll start everything through May to current date. So May 1st will be my start date. And then my end date will be June 1st. And I'll apply that. So now you can see my reports pulled in everything I did throughout the month of May. The different icons on the left denote if it was an appointment, a drop-in visit, if there's an email, as you can see. Once I have the report to include everything I wish, I just tap export in the top right-hand corner. And then once again, this is similar to when you imported data. When you export it, you have the choice of how to do so. So personally, I like just to email it to myself. So I tap email, and then I can just enter my email address and send the report to myself. So that's the activity. Export, and I guess, Calvin, while I'm here, I'll just show the same out of the contact list, if that's okay.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
We mentioned the other way to export data would be to export your entire contact list or a portion of it. So to do that, you would just go to list by name. And once again, there in the top right-hand corner is that share button. Now, if I select all, I can export all of my data. Filtered would just bring to my list those groups that I currently have turned on my map. So if I really want to drill down and perhaps, let me go to filters, maybe I just need to print out a report of my competitor accounts. I'll just turn on that group. I'm going to go back to my list by name. Now when I go to filtered, you can see it's just those competitor accounts listed here. And I could export those. I'll just show you the other two views real quick. Mapview would just show me all of my accounts that are turned on my map in relation to wherever I press that map center. And then circle view would actually add a radius as well. So I could adjust. So maybe I even want to drill it down here. I'm just seeing accounts that are within 2 to 3 miles of where I place that map center. So just different ways to filter down your entire account list. I'll just go back to that competitor list. Once I have this list appearing as I wish, once again, I can export it. So I'm just tapping that share button. And the app just asks me, I can select which fields I want to export. An important one might be notes to pick on. If I've been taking notes, I might want that included with all of my data. And then I just simply tap export, and it's similar to what we just showed you with activities. I can email the report to myself, my manager, my colleague, etc. Great. Well, we're almost out of time. So Calvin, is there just 1 or 2 more questions we want to cover while everyone's on the line? And we can do a quick wrap up, and then we'd be glad, Calvin and I can stay on longer past 2 o'clock if anyone would like to stay on to ask additional questions. But certainly if you've typed in a question and we don't get it to it and you have to drop off at 2, we will certainly email you personally to answer it, and you'll see our contact info. We can then, discuss by phone, etc. if you need further assistance. So Calvin, is there a last question or 2 that we should cover yet?
Yeah, just some general information about the app itself. Nothing in terms of features. I did want to point out that the app is the same whether you have an iPad or iPhone. We do allow 2 devices to be registered to 1 account, so you don't need to pay for an iPad version and an iPhone version separately. Someone also asked, do we have a Salesforce or CRM integration? And the answer is yes. That works a little bit differently than what we're showing currently, but I can tell you really quickly that all your Salesforce data would appear on the map, and you can update your Salesforce org without having to necessarily go into Salesforce anymore. I'll reach out to that individual and we can have a more in-depth conversation if they wish. And finally, I think actually, I think that's about it. I'm sorry, a question just came in. I apologize, but someone asked about Windows phones. Right now, we aren't looking into Windows, but that is something we can consider going forward. But it would require more development on our end. So I think that's everybody. If there's any other questions, feel free to keep typing, and Marianne and I can stay on longer. And if not, have a great day, guys, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and just displayed on the screen, everyone. If you do have further questions, feel free to contact us. There's a couple different ways. If you're in the app, actually that settings, out of the menu that we've showed you, under settings, there's an option to contact us. So you can actually send us a note right from the app if you have a question. Also in settings, there's a documentation link, which jumps you right to our support section of our website if you want to search on any documents to view or videos to watch from our website. Our support email is listed here. It's a little long, appsupport@thecasegroup.com. That goes to our whole support team, so feel free to send any emails that way, and a group of people monitor that email address. And then finally, here's a phone number that actually would go directly to Calvin. If you have any questions, feel free to jot down that number, and Calvin or one of our other colleagues can help you out. And finally, our website's listed here as well. So yes, on behalf of both of us, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And certainly, if you have any more questions, Calvin and I will stay on the line and address any last questions. But for those of you that need to drop off, have a great weekend. Thanks.